I am so proud that Amanda stood up. I was beginning to worry about her. Have y'all met Dean Smith? Stuntman, actor, humanitarian, and a gold medal Olympic winner. Did y'all know that?
Thank you, Red.
Dean has represented our country and our way of life in numerous ways and has been a true professional at all of them. The year was 1959, and the TV Western was king. Gunsmoke was in its 5th season. The Rifleman had been on for a year, and Bonanza was about to debut. But in a town in the Wyoming Territory of the 1870s, a drifter named Jess Harper was about to enter into the hearts, homes of viewers worldwide. The show was Laramie, and the actor was Robert Fuller.
Bobby Fuller and I have been friends for over 50 years. We started out doing stunts together. The only thing is, when he got to be a cowboy star, he did his own stunts. That would starve an old stuntman like me to death. But he always saw that I got paid for it. Anyway, if anyone ever deserved this great honor, it would be Bobby Fuller.
And Robert Fuller has been a part of my life for well over 40 years. We spent lots of nights swapping stories up at Carl Mills Refuge, wildlife refuge up in the San Joaquin Valley. And I don't know how many birds we got, but we shot a lot of bull. And we had a wonderful time, and I treasure my friendship with Robert Fuller. He is our final inductee tonight.
You all right, Cal?
Sure, yes.
Oh, I'm fed up with a lot of you. Now clear out, every one of you.
Look at him. Drawing on unarmed men. No cause to worry, though, I guess, unless we got our backs turned.
Would 2 at a time suit you?
Oh, it suits me just fine, Harper, 2 at a time.
Honorable drifter, frontier scout, gunman for hire. Robert Fuller has played many different roles throughout his career. But the one thing he always brings to the screen is his sense of fun and adventure. Robert Fuller was born in Troy, New York in 1934. At the age of 5, he and his mother moved to Florida, where he attended Miami Military Academy. After graduating high school, the family moved to Hollywood. His mother and stepfather were both dancers, so it's no surprise that Bob started his show business career as a dancer and extra. He was also a gifted athlete and worked often as a stuntman. For extra money, he took a job at Hollywood's famous Grauman's Chinese Theater, all the while working to develop his acting career. That career would briefly be put on hold in 1953 when Robert was called up for duty in Korea. When he returned to the States in 1955, Bob dedicated himself to his craft, which, in part, would lead to his first speaking part in a film.
I was working on a picture called Friendly Persuasion with Gary Cooper. I was a townsman, I was a soldier, I was this one. You hear everything every day. This one particular day, I was playing a cavalry officer. And so all of a sudden, William Wyler looks over at me and this other kid's a big, tall, good-looking guy, and he's got the officer's uniform on also. So he calls this big guy over first, and as soon as the guy gets over, Willie Wyler looks up and says, "No," he says, "your sideburns are fake. They're pasted on, I can tell." And he says, "You, come over here." And I walk over, and he looks at me, and he says, "Now, your sideburns look real." And I said, "Yes, sir, they are." He said, "Can you act?" And I said, "You bet."
In 1957, he landed his first major role in Teenage Thunder.
Hey, here he comes. Watch this. We'll have a little fun with him. Yeah, they let you out, huh? I thought they'd give you at least 20 years.
What do you want, Maury?
Like I told you, I'd be back in when I needed my windshield cleaned. Dust it off a little, will you, buddy boy?
Yeah.
yourself, buddy boy. You made a big mistake, big shot.
Over the next couple of years, Bob would appear as a featured performer or guest star in several TV shows, including Cimarron City with John Smith. His big break was just around the corner.
Assistant director came up to me and he said, Patrick Kelly, the vice president of the studio, would like to see you in his office at lunchtime. And I thought, oh boy, what did I do wrong now? And he said, we have this series starring Ray Milland. It's a detective series, and we have a part for you. We'd like you to play his sidekick. And I said, wait a minute. I said, I can't do that. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, I want to do a Western. And he said, are you a star already? And I said, no, sir, by no means. And he said, you really want to do a Western? And I said, yes, sir, I do. And he said, all right, get out of here. I'll see what we can do. And I left, and I thought, well, that's it. I'll never hear from these people again. Well, a couple of weeks later, my agent called me on the phone and said, Patrick Kelly wants to see you again. So I went back to the office, and I walked in, and he said, hello, star. And he tosses a script across the desk at me. He says, go out of the office and read that and see what you think. So it was a half-hour script called Laramie. So I walked back in, and I said, Mr. Kelly, it's the best script I ever read. Jess Harper is the best part I ever... He said, wait a minute. He said, we don't want you for Jess Harper. We want you for Slim Sherman, the ranch owner. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, sir, I can't do that. And he fell apart. He said, well, you can't have that part. John Smith is under contract to the studio and already has been signed to do the part. And I said, well, I'm sorry, it's just not right. Jess Harper is the part that I'm right for. I'm very sorry, I can't do it. And he said, get out of here. So I left again. I thought, now I'm never going to work again. I got home. That evening, my agent called me and said that they want me to come tomorrow and test for the part of Jess Harper.
All right. But before you do anything you're liable to regret, keep in mind I'm part of the law here now. You draw on me, you're in trouble. No matter how it turns out.
Do you think that's going to stop me?
I don't know if anything's going to stop you. All I can do is try.
Alec.
It's too late, Harper. The war's over. If you shoot me, it's gonna have to be in the back.
Stay where you are.
When Laramie finished its 4-year run in 1963, Robert was offered the part of Cooper Smith on Universal Studios' long-running series Wagon Train.
Myra,
What do you want?
Grace is waiting for you.
Who are you?
I'm a friend of her sister's. Come on, let's go.
Take your hands off her.
Like I said, mister, I'm a friend of her sister's. She's waiting for us. Come on, let's go.
I don't think you heard me. This is a private party.
Colin, put that thing away.
Take it easy.
In 1966, Bob starred in the all-action Western film Incident at Phantom Hill. That same year, he would co-star with Yul Brynner in Return of the Magnificent Seven, taking over the role of Vin from Steve McQueen.
Hello, Chris.
Then?
Thought you took a job riding shotgun for Overland.
I quit.
How come?
My health. Doctor said to find a climate with less lead in the air. What you doing here?
Tracked a man across the line for bounty?
Who?
You.
In 1970, Robert starred as a veteran Marine home from Vietnam in The Hard Ride. This role prompted Jack Webb to cast Bob as Dr. Kelly Brackett in NBC's new medical drama series, Emergency.
Apparently, for some unknown reason, Sir Eric's health is of great concern to you. Why, I don't know. But right now, he's my patient, and his welfare is my concern. Will you give me some room to work?
I'm trying to give you some room to work, but you must understand that there's more to this than that. All I ask is that you play everything through me first, and I'll break my neck to help you.
Well, I appreciate the gesture. Now convince me that you're medically qualified to make decisions about what I should or should not do for the patient's welfare.
After Emergency finished its run, Bob guest starred on many television shows, including The Fall Guy, Matt Houston, The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., and Walker, Texas Ranger. An avid outdoorsman, Robert has been able to blend his TV experience with his love of fishing as the host of syndicated sports shows Fishing Fever, Blue Water Challenge, and Colorado River Adventure. In 2001, he married actress Jennifer Savage, who was a regular on St. Elsewhere and Jag. The couple moved to Texas in 2003, where they now live. Tonight, the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum is proud to add Robert Fuller to the Hall of Great Western Performers.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert Fuller.
Oh, my stars. Dean, Red, thank you guys. I'm so proud of both of you, and I'm so pleased you did me the honor of being my presenters tonight. I really appreciate that. All right, you thought you were going to get away easy, huh? You know, these old two boys here, they've been friends of mine for a long time. As Red said, we have been friends for over 40 years and spent a lot of time fishing and bird shooting, even had a sody pop or two together. And as you all know, Red is the poet laureate of the state of Texas, and we're mighty proud of him. He's also one of the best dadgum entertainers that I've ever known. Fortunately, he and his lovely wife, Gail, don't live too far from me in Texas, and we do get to see each other from time to time, and it's always a pleasure. Now, at this time, I would like to thank Whit Lee, Charles Schroeder, Shayla Simpson, Edwina Johnston, Susan Adams, and the Board of Directors of the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum for this great honor. This is a very special moment for me to receive this award for doing something that I love, playing cowboy, and sharing this stage with one of my favorite cowboys, Johnny McBrown, and three other gentlemen who have also helped to preserve our Western heritage, Clem McSpadden, Howard C. Haythorne, and John Palmer Parker. I'd say I'm in pretty darn good company all the way around. I'd also like to thank everyone in the audience who has supported me throughout all these years of my career. I have a lot of friends out there this evening. Some have crossed state lines, some have crossed oceans. If you all don't mind and you bear with me, I'd like to give them all a nod. First off, at my table over there, my good friends, Dick and Patty Hayen, David and Nancy Moore, Ken and Cindy Stormer, and Pat Winstead, all from Texas, and my son, Rob Fuller, who came in from California. And last but not least, my ranch hand, barn goddess, and the love of my life, my wife, Jennifer Savage Fuller. Now, also in the audience, I have some friends that I'd like to mention too. You know, I got Johnny and Joe Western are out there, Nan and Bob Kingsley from Texas. I've got Bill and Elizabeth Markham from Colorado, Keith and Charlotte Mills from California, Denny and Marcella Waller from Texas, Kim and Carrie Baker from Montana, Giuseppe and Andrina Catalano from Italy, Tony Gill from England, Mary Brown and Bev Sharman from Arizona, Anthony and Nancy Dresser from Texas, Nibi Gonzalez from Michigan, Steve and Sandra Hurl from Texas, and Atsuko Yamagachi from Japan. Thank you all for being a part of my life and for being here tonight. You know, Jennifer and I had a great experience these last 3 days. We've been able to wander the halls of this great museum, and you know, no matter what anybody tells you about it, it's hard to believe until you see it with your own eyes. Well, I saw it with my own eyes, and I still don't believe it. It is the most magnificent tribute to our Western culture that I've ever seen, and we'll be coming back for more. Now, when I was 12 years old, growing up in Florida, I couldn't wait for Saturday to roll around for two reasons. One, no school. Two, Saturday matinee at the movies. And if we're lucky, that meant 3 movies and all Westerns. My cowboy heroes in those days were Don Redberry, Bob Steele, Johnny McBrown, Roy Rogers, Gene Autry, and the great Joe McCrae. I learned a lot from those men. I learned about honesty, about right and wrong, about respect for women, and loyalty. I guess you might say they taught me the code of the West. Well, little did I know that a short 15 years later, I would not only know these men, but I would become friends with them and work with them. Sadly, I never did have the pleasure of meeting Johnny McBrown. But I did have the pleasure of working with Don Redberry and Bob Steele on my series Laramie. I also spent many hours on the trap and skeet field with Roy Rogers and spent many fun hours at lunch with Gene Autry. And finally got to meet and work with my hero and best dadgum horseman there ever was, Joe McCrae. Now, you know, most folks don't know it, but back in the 50s and 60s, there were 32 Westerns in prime time. Now, that's a whole lot of cowboys running around Hollywood, and I was lucky enough to be one of them. You know, having worked extra and doing stunt work in Western films in the early 50s, I already knew how to ride and pull a .45 pretty good. So when I got out of the Army in 1955 and started studying acting with Richard Boone, I was ready to try my hand at some of those Westerns. Well, 4 years later, and 15 or so of those Westerns in my back pocket, I got lucky and got my own Western series, Laramie. And I was grateful for all that experience that led up to it. Because I just now learned what it's like to spend 5 hours a day in the saddle, 5 hours a day fighting and shooting, and 1 hour a day kissing the leading lady. And I loved every minute of it. Well, after 4 years, 136 episodes, I got lucky again and was asked to join the series Wagon Train. And I jumped at the chance to work with my old pal John McIntyre. So, 3 more years of riding, fighting, shooting, and you guessed it, kissing the leading lady. Only this time, I got to kiss the woman of my dreams. Ever since I can remember, I was madly in love with Rhonda Fleming. Now, you all remember Rhonda Fleming, that gorgeous redhead with the beautiful eyes. Well, one of the great experiences of working on Wagon Train was that every week we had a superstar for a guest. I could walk on a set one day and I'd be working with Barbara Stanwyck or Betty Davis or Ronald Reagan. It was unbelievable to have those chances to work with these great people. So I always looked forward to the next script to see who was going to be the guest star. And this one particular week, I picked the script up a couple of days early and I read it. And I saw that the guest star was going to be a woman, and that I was going to have a romantic interest with her. And I always liked that. And I thought, great, this is going to be a fun show. It was a good script. The girl was going to play a dance hall girl, and we were going to have a good romantic scene together. So I called the producer and I said, who's the guest star on the show next week? And he said, Rhonda Fleming. I said, Rhonda Fleming? I could not believe it. I am going to work and get to kiss Rhonda Fleming. Well, anyway, as I said before, I've been madly, madly in love with this woman. So I walk on the set the very first day, and there she is, and she's just as gorgeous in person as she is on the screen, and she was a sweetheart, and we met. And I think she knew I liked her a little bit because I kept following her around saying, can I get you some coffee, Miss Fleming? Can I do this for you? Can I do that for you? But she was very nice. She treated me very well. And we worked for a couple of days together and had a lot of fun. And then came the day that we were going to have the little scene together where we, just the two of us, and it gets a little romantic, and we get to kiss. And the scene consists of the scene because her daughter's son is in jail, and she's trying to con me into getting him out of jail. So after her show on stage, she asked me to come back to her dressing room, and she has this very low-cut dress on, and it's very warm in there, and it's just a two-shot between the two of us, last shot of the day, and it was about a two-page scene, so we shot it. Didn't think much about it. It went real well. Finally, at the very end, she comes up and gives me a kiss, and that's it. They say cut, and we go home. So the next day, at lunchtime, after lunch is over, the producers came down on the set, and they said, Bob, when you get a break, we'd like you to come up to the projection room and see the dailies with us. I thought, well, that's strange. They never ask an actor to do that. And I thought, well, okay, I will. I asked the director if I could get a few minutes off, and he said, yeah, go ahead. So we, three of us, the two producers and myself, walked up to the projection room, sat down. The producer said, roll the film, and the film came on. We're sitting there watching, and about 10 seconds went by, and I realized that I had never once looked at her face or looked in her eyes. My head was down like this, the complete scene, and it was obvious. And they said, cut it. And I said, boy, we're in trouble. And they said, you bet we are. I said, well, now what are we going to do? And Howard Christie said, well, obviously we're going to have to shoot the scene over again. And I said, well, okay. I said, but what kind of an excuse are you going to give Rhonda? What are you going to tell her why we're going to have to shoot this scene over again? And he said, we're not going to give her an excuse. We're going to tell her exactly why we have to shoot this scene over again. And I said, no, you can't do that. You can't to tell Rhonda. He said, we're going to do it. And they took off and headed back to the set. Well, I wasn't in any hurry to get back there. I didn't want to run into her right away because I knew they were actually going to go back and tell her. But I walked on down a little while later and walked onto the set, and they were just leaving, and Rhonda was sitting way over in the corner in her chair. And I tried to avoid her a little bit, but he couldn't too much on the set, and I finally looked over her way, and she went like this. And I thought, oh, man, here it comes. So I walked over to her, and she said, she had a very stern look on her face. She said, I understand we have to reshoot that scene we did the other day. And I said, yeah, we do. And she said, and I understand why. And I said, Rhonda, I'm so sorry. I said, I don't know what to say. And she said, don't say a word. She stood up and she said, I'm very flattered, and I'll be more than happy to shoot that scene over again with you. Got up, put her arms around me, and gave me a hug. Well, that was Rhonda, and those were the good old days of Westerns, and I'm thankful to have been a part of it. You know, magic happened for young and old 105 years ago when the first Western, The Great Train Robbery, hit the silver screen in 1903. And we got our first cowboy hero, Bronco Billy Anderson. Now, Bronco carried the reins until 1915 when William S. Hart picked him up, and he rode with him till the mid-20s. Then came along Tom Mix, and he brought along with him Hoot Gibson, Ken Maynard, Jack Holt, Harry Carey. And then, in 1929, Paramount released their first sound Western, The Virginian, starring Gary Cooper. And so it began, a genre that has thrilled us for the next 80 years and will continue to, I hope. Now, there were hundreds of cowboy heroes in between, and I'd be remiss not to mention some of them, so I will. Here goes. The Duke, of course, led the pack. But in that great posse were Roy and Gene, Hoppy, the Lone Ranger. Herb Jeffries rode tall beside Jimmy Stewart, Glenn Ford, and Henry Fonda. And believe it or not, Randy Scott was riding behind Jimmy Cagney and Humphrey Bogart, hollering, "Put the hooks to them, boys, we ain't got all day." I got Audie Murphy, Dale Robertson, Slim Pickens, Dub Taylor, and Alan Ladd riding up my tail. And they're being chased by Clint Eastwood, Tom Selleck, Sam Elliott, and Bob Duvall. Well, you know, this posse could stretch clear to the Red River if I let it, so I'm going to pull it up. Even though there's hundreds more and too many to mention, I'm sure they know we'll never forget them. Now, there's an actor friend of mine that did a television series called Laredo. His name is William Smith. You probably all know who I'm talking about. Well, he loves Westerns, and he likes to write poems about cowboys. And one in particular is my favorite. And if you all don't mind, I'd like to share it with you. It's simply titled, Cowboy. Cowboy, you were America. You were the West. You were the legend. You were the best. A long time ago, you carved that Chisholm Trail. You and your pony carried the U.S. mail. And you learned how to live with nature's awesome might and sang your lonely ballads to calm the herd at night. You rode that barbed wire for weeks all alone when your only companion was the cold wind's moan. You shared all your dreams with the man in the moon. Your mouth harp would croon like the cry of the loon. In the dawn's early light, you'd hear the coyote's song, bone marrow cold, with your coffee black and strong. You rode straight and tall, never talked too loud, mostly shy and humble, but always proud. The lines in your face marked the trails that you rode, and the truth in your eyes mirrored the cowboy's code. The code of the West that we lost so long ago. We still love you, cowboy. Where did you go? Cowboy, you were America. You were the West. You were the legend. You're still the best. Well, I think it's about time for me to hook it out of here, so I'd like to thank everyone again for this great honor I've received tonight. Now I can ride off into the sunset, a very happy cowboy. God bless you all, and God bless our men and women in uniform. Thank you.
Well, this brings the 2008 Western Heritage Awards to a close, and I hope you had as much fun watching the show as I did watching it with you. So let's saddle up and let's go home. Everybody be careful, and God bless. Good night.